Hello, everyone, and welcome to Playwright, a podcast about creating and sharing new ways to play. My name is Ryan Hamann. You can call me H.
And I'm Ryan Quintal. You can call me Q.
So you got married this last week.
I am sick on sugar from wedding cake as we speak.
You, as they say on the tacky cards, you have your player too.
Oh
you
my
get
God.
to begin the ultimate game.
Truth be told, I was heavily considering, Jessica and I were heavily considering using the ice climbers as cake toppers for the wedding. The ice climber amiibo.
You call them the icing climbers.
Yes, right. They were climbing the icing of the cake. But before we got the chance to do that, my brother got married earlier this year, and of course he had Wedding Mario and Wedding Peach, which was just too good. And the fact that they were, man, it's like Nintendo literally designed wedding cake toppers in those two things.
Yeah.
So I stayed away from it. I said, all right, we have to do something else. And I actually went on Etsy, found a woman that does, like, I would say amateur, but I'm paying her, I guess, professional 3D printed versions of the logo that I made up for the wedding. And so those were cake toppers. I was like, I used the whole thing as like a branding exercise because of course I did.
Yeah. That's, they should have a video game version where they just sell video game stuff they can call Etsy-o. Welcome to Playwright, everyone. For another week.
We're back,
Good
baby.
to have everyone back. We, that's the way with things go around here. We talk about fake video game pitches and make them into real nothings for all of you to enjoy at home.
Yeah, we do our best. Okay.
I mean, other than actually putting in any effort to make the games, but other than
that's
that,
crazy. We wouldn't do that. That's madness.
We do our second best.
If you hear about one of our games and you find something on itch.io or a website like that, then feel free to just give us credit for the original idea. I'm sure the creators would love that. So, yeah, go out hunting for things and attribute them to us. We would love to hear about it.
Yeah, you can feel free to just sue them on our behalf, and we're easy to reach. You can just kind of wire the money to us. We're sure you're good for it.
We're happy to get litigious. And, you guys know, we're kind of giving you the blanket argument. You can't actually do this anymore on the internet. I'm realizing as we say it that never turn a mob against anyone. In the event that our podcast actually gets insanely popular, please be nice to anybody making video games. That's the big ones and the small ones. Please just be nice.
Yes. Yeah. We are out here just to try to put some more positive energy into the universe.
Yeah.
And so, let's not be mean to anyone. With that said, Q, what are you going to be inventing wholesale today?
So I feel like we may have pitched something like this before, but maybe this is a different spin on it. I became fascinated with seeing screenshots and hearing people talk about this game. I think it's called like A Plague Tale or something like that, where there's a lot of rat physics in it.
That's primarily what it's known for, the rat physics.
Yeah.
So, this is A Plague Tale Innocence. It's given a subtitle like they're expecting there to be more in the series, which, this sounds like, I hope it continues.
Yeah, maybe I'm giving them fodder for a potential new entry here.
Hey, here we go.
What I'm thinking is I would like to play a game where I am actually playing as a rat. And I have to kind of crawl around the sewers and locate somebody that actually has the plague, and maybe I have different senses and stuff that help me kind of sniff out who has the plague. And then I bite them and I get infected, and then I go about infecting other rats and people and just try to actually spread. This is a pro plague game. Spread the plague.
You don't get a lot of those these days.
Very, very popular topic now. So you're spreading the plague around these different cities or towns, and maybe every city and town is different. Maybe it's randomly generated. I don't know. There's lots of details to work out. That's the pitch.
All right, let's get started. I'll start the clock there. So this reminds me a lot of the zombie type games that you see in, I think one of them became very popular in Halo's, whatever the custom matches were before they created the Forge, was it? Where you can design your own levels. And so they gave you a lot of freedom with creating your own rule sets for different types of matches. It became kind of a community favorite, this zombie mode where one player would have a sword and everyone else would have a shotgun, and that sword player would try to like sneak around the map, killing other players, and then as soon as they're killed, they transform into somebody with a sword as well and go and try to hunt down all the remaining shotgun players. That's interesting. Obviously, the push there was to not be infected and not become a zombie for as long as possible.
Right.
But it seems like in this case, the intention is to become infected, and there might even be a portion of the game where you are seeking out the infection in the first place.
Yeah, so I like maybe if these things feel a little bit like one of these multiplayer maps or multiplayer rounds where there is a timer and you do have, maybe it's a small team of people that are all playing as these rats. You have to kind of detect what the plague is, right? So the first phase is locating and biting, maybe Untitled Goose Game, like trying to locate and awkwardly bite somebody that has the plague, and then kind of spreading it becomes the second phase, and you get a little heat map or mini map where that shows the infection and kind of where it's going, and maybe that phase of the game feels a little bit more like trying to hunt down and determine what individuals are going to have the most contact or the most spread, or maybe the spreading has to be done entirely through the sort of rat players.
Maybe there are different colors of plagues. It's kind of like picking up a weapon in GoldenEye. It's like as you're going around the map, you see like, okay, he has a red plague, and they all have like different effects. And so based on the changes you want to see in the map around you, if you're a rat and you're affecting the humans or the other rats or something, then you can choose to infect with different plagues. Maybe there's one color that cures its opposite. So there's kind of like a weapon triangle thing going on here. Maybe there's ways you can mix the colors to come up with the complementary colors that have different effects. You know, there's, I think there's things we can do.
I like the idea of maybe having multiple plague types and then having to get a certain percentage infection by area. And then you could do things where maybe one type of infection battles another kind of infection, right? So you're trying to strategically place these infections so that they have as much potential radius as possible, but they're not really going to overlap much with another. So you're actually like planning out, oh, okay, I'm going to drop sort of this, this sounds so morbid, this disease over here and this one over here, and I'm going to like try and get this one between them because neither of those are reactive to this sort of middle one.
Maybe instead of sickness plagues, these are kind of mind control plagues. And as you infect people with one of the colors, they kind of become your color, kind of like in Tony Hawk Pro Skater graffiti matches or whatever. And so as you're biting people, they're becoming your color, and they just start like fighting people of the other colors. And so you see these, you know, these humans become very violent and going and rushing at each other and punching each other and kicking and everything. And so it's up to you to not only try to get in there and just bite the most people. You're a rat in an increasingly violent situation full of things that are much larger than you. So there's an inherent risk there, but also trying to strategize whether it's best to bite, you know, a small number of people over a large radius and kind of like come at the battlefield from all angles, or whether you just bite a bunch of people in one area and just kind of like Zerg Rush, you know, make your army, but it's very concentrated.
That's interesting. That almost makes me wonder if there's not room to just sort of move this over into completely competitive match where every player is just starts as a rat with a particular disease type, and then you are going out and you're trying to bite people on opposing that are either like the non-infected people are the easiest to catch the infection, and then people that are already infected, maybe you have to go above and beyond or do something extra, bite them a couple times, or you have to bite a number of people in a vicinity in order to sort of get that infection spreading in that way. So you kind of get as the match gets more and more mature and the disease, like the population becomes more saturated with these diseases, you find yourself in a situation where fighting for almost Splatoon-like dominance of the map, but it's a moving, shifting horde of a map rather than like just a static area you're trying to cover.
Maybe as you start biting people, obviously the disease can spread from human to human if they cough or sneeze or whatever. And so you get that kind of like slowly bleeding out effect as your color kind of radiates throughout the map. And you're trying to kind of slither through the groups and bite as many people as possible, but everyone's running away from you as soon as you start biting because, you know, you're a scary rat and nobody likes that. And so you can go towards other areas where people aren't suspecting you and are standing still. It's kind of like being a lion hunting down wildebeests in the wild, but they're just like the lions. The humans that are already sick are the easiest targets because they're kind of hobbling along. They're moving slowly. It's easy to catch up with them. So it's really easy to take the humans that the opponents have already infected. Like that's a relatively easy task. But just like you read on like hand washing solutions, it says like kills 99% of germs.
99.99, Ryan. Let's not, we can't forget that.
Well, you know, rounding down. The scientists always warn you, it's like if it kills 99% of germs, that's not evenly and randomly distributed. That just means that there's 1% of germs that it just is like cannot kill because it's very strong. And if those germs are the only ones around that are, you know, multiplying and everything, then you're just going to like culture a huge badass troop of like ultra germs.
Yeah, you're going to make a bit of a problem, aren't you?
Yeah, so as people are running away, obviously the fastest and strongest are the ones that are going to survive the longest. And so they're going to be the ones that are kind of like upgrading and picking up defenses as time goes on and becoming like real rat killers. So you can get in there, you can try to target them first, but towards the end of the match, you've got these real badasses coming out after you.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm getting anxiety just thinking about it. Thinking about these super germs, thinking about these super viruses. Yeah, so what if it's like competitive in that way where you're trying to spread a particular type of plague, but as those plagues mutate and evolve, you have to sort of hunt down and devour a person that's infected with one of these hybrid plagues. And yeah, this is getting dark. And then you then only through like the process of devouring do you now you yourself can carry that particular type of plague. You get almost a risk situation where as powers are consolidated, people are forced to either like, if you're losing so badly and you don't have a good enough percentage of the map, you can choose to devour one of the victims of another plague and sort of automatically become a member of their team. You'd have to like make it totally random so that there couldn't be communication. It would always have to be sort of random matchmaking, but you would have to see like in real time throughout a match, alliances form and like suddenly people being like, oh, red means business. I think I'm gonna join Team Red.
It'd be fun if the different players were different types of creatures that can carry diseases. So you have like a rat swarm that's confined to the ground, but is pretty quick. You have like a mosquito swarm that can fly, but moves pretty slowly. Or you have just like the invisible germs that are passed from person to person. And so you can like jump between people and the other players don't know where you are because you're invisible unless they see the trail of people that you are infecting. Anyways, we're out of time on that one, so let's go ahead and issue the cure before coming up with a name for this one.
Man, The Cure is a good name. Too bad it's already very much taken by a popular band. What's that board game? A Pandemic? Everybody put up that Pandemic. Maybe there's something there. You could do something where the whole thing is set in medieval times and call it like the plague or ye old plague or something like that.
Ye Old Plague is like strangely quaint and jovial for something like this.
Yeah, maybe there's what's the opposite of Renaissance? I guess Dark Ages.
If your goal, your aim is to spread the plague, you could call it Plague Games.
Plague games. Oh, that hurts my soul a little bit. It's just because it doesn't feel elegant to say.
Plague Against the Machine.
Plague Against the Machine is fun. This is kind of interesting. It has kind of mixed meaning. What do you think about something like transmission as a word?
Transmission. All right. I think whenever I hear that word, I always think it was going to be like a car pun.
Yeah.
I'm all right with it. We can go for transmission coming to you and everyone around you soon.
Yeah, and if you're really looking for all the words in there, we could do transmission : plague games.
It's fun. Has multiple meanings. All right, so my turn. I've been playing a game called Golf Peaks. Do you know this one?
Oh, is this that Apple Arcade game?
No, it is before Apple Arcade. It's actually it is on phones, and it's also on Nintendo Switch and PC.
Oh, this is the Switch game with the beautiful sort of geometric, isometric maps?
Right, so it's a isometric map that's made out of cubes, and you're essentially playing kind of like a game of golf, but it's also a card game, so you have these cards at the bottom which represent the moves that are available to you. And so you can draw a card that is like, hit it for 2 squares, or, pop it upwards for 1 square and then let it roll for 2 squares. And just trying to kind of like, sink those golf balls. And it's fun. It's very, very difficult. I found, obviously it starts off easy enough as it's teaching you the ropes, but it does definitely ramp up to the point where it's like, those types of puzzle games where you just like see the course every time and it's just like, oh boy.
Yeah, you're just filled with dread.
But you eventually figure it out. It's a nice little game. I'd recommend people check it out. It's very inexpensive, but it has a really lovely seed of an idea in there. And I want to kind of expand on that in a different direction and go for a hex-based, turn-based strategy golf game that is competitive, 2 players. And so, instead of being so rigid about the cards and, using your inventory to solve these puzzles, you are kind of controlling a character like you would be controlling a character in like an RTS or a CRPG or something like that, and using different abilities, using, whatever is at your disposal. I want this to be kind of like Civilization, but for golf, if we can cross that bridge. So I'm going to start the clock and see if we can make amends here.
I do like the idea of Civ Golf, not just because the name is good, but the concept of having to, like, I think one thing that's interesting about golf is the construction, and you don't always feel it in a golf game, is the golf course. You get this a lot more, that sort of feeling, in a sim than you do in sort of arcadey golf games, which are very much concerned about the individual hole. And I'll be mad if anybody clips out me saying individual hole. That is not going to be. But the idea of having, like, there's different types of units in Civ, right? That all have different types of movements or abilities in them. Like the scout, I'm gonna be able to move very quickly with the scout because I'm looking to like settle down in a new place. Maybe there's something where units are kind of clubs or something.
Right, that makes the most sense, is having, obviously you have different clubs for different scenarios. I'm thinking like something like Hot Shots Golf, but less manual, less room for error, but still like a lot of the same factors. You still have to kind of factor in the wind. You still have to factor in your power, but like everything is grid based and number based, as opposed to being not random, but gradient.
I'm trying to think, like, what is it like to have someone fight back against you in that? Could you like personify something in golf? like an incline or a decline. Like every time you go to take a turn, almost like an animate object, different parts of the course can shift around. And like what was, a bank to the left can shift over and it's a bank to the right or something like that. And then you have, so the sort of quicker you do things, the more in control of the layout of the hole that you are.
Maybe you have a certain number of like actions per turn, and you can use maybe magical abilities or something like that. I don't know how abstract we really want to get here, or if there's a novelty in making just kind of like a nice puzzly like game that does a pretty decent game of golf if you strip away all those elements. But I think that having shifting terrain kind of like Into the Breach would be an interesting addition to a golf game.
I was just about to cite Into the Breach because I think that is a great analogy for this particular experience, especially when I look at something like Golf Peaks. It starts to tickle that Into the Breach sort of layout of your brain.
Yeah.
And so if you had that sort of scenario where, I don't know if it's other golfers or what, I do like the idea of like the Fire Emblem-esque, there are other golfers on the field and everyone's trying to hit their balls and has a certain amount of actions per turn. But then like there's these board games that I've been playing. They're called Forbidden Desert and Forbidden Island. And in these games, the player goes and then the world gets to kind of go. And the world is always like ramping up the pressure on the players to think faster or react better in the next turn around. So like the idea of the golf course, like Into the Breach, maybe things are getting set on fire or things are collapsing and there are spots that you are going to potentially hit your ball, were like how you were going to set up a bank or a dog ear or whatever they're called. You're going to take a turn with your golf ball from a particular spot, so you're going to hit it there, but that's collapsing around you, and those options are slowly being taken away till you really have to, if you take too many putts or you take too many whacks at that ball, then you're going to actually be in the most difficult scenario.
One of the games I've been playing recently is on Apple Arcade. It's the Cricket Through the Ages, which is published by Devolver Digital. It's a very silly physicsy game in which they start you off by going on kind of like a time travel adventure kind of thing, where you're traveling through history from the days when cavemen were fighting dinosaurs to the times in the future where people are inhabiting other dimensions and other planets. It basically just kind of like you pick up additional skills and stuff along the way as you're just kind of set in these silly scenarios of usually greatly unbalanced battles. You can swing your arm around and throw a stone, or you can, sometimes you're holding like a sword or something like that. Sometimes you're riding on the back of something, but all of this time you are kind of performing a few basic actions to do all of these kind of silly physics-based battle things throughout history. And then at the end of that, which I thought was going to be kind of like the whole game, they put you in a cricket match, like it's still a little silly, but it's like a lot more like straight-laced cricket match than the silliness that came before. I kind of realized at that point, like how clever they kind of like Mr. Miyagi'd me in a way. Like they taught me how to play cricket. Now, like I kind of understand what I'm doing in a way that like I'm an American. I have a genetic predisposition to not understand cricket. So,
right.
I like these games that approach a sport, but take it in a way that you don't even know that you're learning the rules. You don't even really understand that you are like learning to play it correctly, but then they drop you in a scenario where all of the artifice is kind of stripped away for a little bit, and you see like, oh, wow, I have picked up the know-how and the skills that I need to succeed here.
That's interesting. And one of the things that kind of reminds me of that is that concept of the course, maybe not getting more difficult, but collapsing around you and really reinforcing the feeling of what par is. And what a birdie and what an eagle is. Like maybe the course starts more difficult and gets easier and easier. And so you're kind of encouraged to try and hit the ball and kind of get that hole in one because you're going to be doing it in the most difficult way. So you get yourself like suddenly, 3 putts in and different sections of the course are appearing and different plots of land or sand traps are being blown away. And you're kind of mentally reinforcing to the person that like every additional stroke, things are kind of getting easier on you. I know that's kind of like anti what you would expect the flow of a video game to be. So maybe there's something more interesting to be done with that.
Yeah.
How do we teach someone what is golf really? It's hitting a small thing into another small thing very far away.
Maybe there's like, I guess this isn't really true to golf, but maybe there could be levels where there's like a fog of war where you only have so much visibility and you have general ideas of like what direction the hole is in, but like you can't see the hazards until you get a little bit closer to them. So you can choose to play it safe and only go like a little bit at a time. And of course, get some additional strokes in there, or you can choose to really kind of just belt it and hope that you're going in the right direction and you end up not in the middle of a lake.
What if you kind of took the approach that is almost coming at it from the opposite side that Golf Peaks is trying to come at it, where you are not actually golfing, but instead you're given a hand of abilities or cards or whatever, and maybe they're temporary, maybe they're permanent. As you see the ball hit different spots of the course, you are then able to place land tiles to kind of adapt to the next section of the hole. So you are trying to sort of encourage the lowest score possible by designing a very favorable course or a very favorable hole throughout the course of play, and that's what the turns are for.
Well, let's close that down. We went in a lot of different directions. And as far as names go, I really like your statement just now, a very favorable hole.
A very favorable hole is very good. Now I've done 2 pieces of hole content this episode, I feel.
You do. It's been no pun intended, the whole episode you've been at this.
Oh my God. If we named episodes based on what we said, that would be the name of the episode.
Well, we kind of do in a way, but
yeah. The whole episode, by the way, also good name for the golf game.
It is a good one. The whole game. Yeah. Our community pitch today is coming from a group that was kind enough to email us. Of course, we understand that by putting our email address out there, it is up to the listeners if they choose to subscribe us to any weird newsletters. Those become fodder for pitches as well. Anything we receive in our inbox can become a video game pitch, and we're going to put that to the test today. You are a newly married man, so this will surely resonate with you. This comes from Bridal Bible Weddings. That is info@thebridalbible.com.au. So Australian.
Like you do.
I just want to describe so their logo is like,
it's
the B is like a heart with like a little extra bit on top to make it a B, but they put the B in both directions. So it's like a mirror image, I guess, to kind of fill out the heart thing, but it also looks like a pregnant woman. Am I just seeing things, or is it looking like a baby bump there?
Or two butts kind of smashed together. In a way, it's almost like the Airbnb logo. It looks like an abstraction of like 4 different private parts all at the same time.
I guess if you look at it in a certain way as well, you can see something that's very
suggestive.
Yeah.
It's also in pink. This is not how, there's a lot happening.
That's true. Yeah. This is a troubling logo. Seek it out. I was, just, if it was like meant to be like a baby bump kind of thing, that is kind of a funny thing to put in a bridal, because, it kind of like gives across the impression of like a shotgun wedding or something like that. It's like, now we better get married.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we did the thing.
Grab the Bridal Bible.
At this point, this website and logo will be included in the post for this week's episode, so you can check it out over at playwrightcast.com.
This is they bill themselves as Australia's award-winning wedding directory. They say, "Have you heard? We have been busy. Firstly, in the last 2 months, we have signed up over 80 vendors across 3 locations, Melbourne, Perth, and Sydney. It brings us so much joy to connect with local talented vendors across Australia. Secondly, we hosted a giveaway, $7,500 wedding package to one lucky Instagram winner. Details of winner and supplier in our post. Click here."
What the hell? Wasn't me.
I'm tempted to really dive into this this rabbit hole here.
Instagram winner.
Thirdly, we were nominated finalists to win Startup Company of the Year, 2nd year running. Wait a minute. You can only start up once. I guess you can remain in startup form for multiple years. But
yeah, I suppose so. But suspect.
Seems, yeah. At the Business Excellence Award, join our network and reach new clients. We have over 80,000 prospects, monthly and growing. How it works: 1, create a listing. 2, get more bookings. Interesting. It sounds like a band almost. And 3, monitor leads and manage in vendor dashboard.
I have no idea what this company does.
Just by looking at this, I can't tell if it says connecting business to brides, which is also a little suggestive. But I guess this is a way that people that work weddings, like photographers or wedding crashers, presumably,
of course,
can, I guess, get in touch with those who are in need of wedding assistance. So with that, let us put our heads together and fix all of Australia's bridal problems with a video game pitch. We're starting the clock there.
Boy, oh boy. I like the how it works section. That's probably our most gamey part of this, right? Where 1 is create a listing, 2 is get more bookings, and 3, monitor leads and manage in vendor dashboard. So are we making something of like a wedding business simulator here?
That seems a little too easy. I'm going to let us do that.
Okay, great. Okay.
So there's another section here that says what you get, and they list off a bunch of things. There's listing on our website directory, quarterly blog posts, collaborations, monthly specials newsletter to brides, Instagram shout out upon sign up. That's nice. And giveaway competitions. So what really intrigues me is this monthly specials newsletter to brides. And I wonder if there's some angle of like a hidden radio station that broadcasts exclusively to brides, or if there's some sort of like bridal social network or something that like maybe the women are plotting something against all the men. This is obviously a work of fantasy, and we're not working out our own deep-seated fears. But just for the sake of a funny story, what if we are like undercover trying to infiltrate bridal spaces to spy on the women? I don't know. Where does this take us?
All this talk about destinations and parties and vendors. What if you had a game that was like Hitman, but you were a wedding planner and you were going around to different people's weddings and sort of staving off disaster at every beck and call. So you find yourself like going and making sure that like the caterers that are cooking dinner are not like burning something in the kitchen, and then you're off to have the bar water down somebody's drinks so that they don't give too drunken of a speech. And so you're kind of constantly saving the day. You're the invisible wedding planner. You're going and you're stealing a camera and you're taking extra pictures because you notice the photographers are on smoke break and all this kind of crazy stuff.
What would be funny to throw an extra wrinkle into this? since this is coming from the Bridal Bible, if you are playing like actual Jesus, like walking around trying to fix the wedding, but trying to not let people discover that you're actually Jesus.
Lord, I always wondered why there were 2 shrimp cocktails in my glass. So, man, I think the Jesus angle is tough. Maybe Bridal Bible.
Or you could be a guardian angel or something like that. And so you put on disguises, but maybe you start like glowing and shining through them after a little while. So they're only good for a time. You have that hitman angle of like people will recognize you if you're not in the right disguise.
They're not using Bible in the way an American business would use Bible.
Which is interesting because like, I mean, I was interested that there doesn't seem to be any religious angle on here.
No, not at all.
Which based on like a bridal thing and something that is excessively wholesome in its presentation, you would think like this is prime pickings for religiosity, but that is not the case.
I'm on their Instagram right now for inspiration, and I'm not seeing a cross or a religious symbol of any sort appearing. So they literally just mean like Bible in the sense of your go-to book. Oh, maybe there's like, are you like also crafting kind of a storybook wedding? You have to like assemble all the variables of a wedding in kind of like a wedding maker sort of style where you're piecing together, you're like, they're going to go here and then the events are going to be this, this, and this. And then that you kind of build your own level and then you go in and save it because you kind of know all the stuff that went into planning it.
I guess, what does that look like? Is that something that you do post hoc, or is that something where you are, maybe it's like a word game where you're kind of like using a limited bank of words to fill in blanks, Mad Lib style. It kind of plays off of like double meanings and stuff, but you have to make a wedding run smoothly based on the script and description that comes out of it. And then you can kind of see like a little cartoon enactment of what happened.
So you have a list of vendors and maybe you have like a, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. You have some sort of like conversation with the bride to be. And she's like, oh, I'm really looking for this type of food and this type of thing. And you're doing your best to like pick a bunch of vendors, but then you kind of know what those vendors need additional help with. Every vendor is bad at a particular thing. And so you're kind of always assembling a new group of strengths and weaknesses, which means you are at different points in the wedding worried about different things depending on the sort of vendor lineup that you have mixed.
Or there's kind of like in Grand Theft Auto, when you're putting together one of the heists, you can choose to hire really expensive vendors that do a really good job, or less expensive vendors take more of a cut of the money for yourself, but you have to kind of chip in more and do more of the running around.
Oh, yeah. So you're trying to also like make your own cut off of the wedding. Mm-hmm. And then what you can do is you can use the money that you make to sort of permanently sign on new vendors to your vendor group that'll have different sort of mixes of like strengths and weaknesses. So you're like, okay, like I find myself going around and like taking care of hors d'oeuvres all night. I need something that's strong in hors d'oeuvres, but then like there's a whole section at the front of the wedding where you're now going to be worried about they actually have a tendency of like undercooking things or overcooking things. So you're more worried about kitchen stuff up front, but then you can kind of let that go and then worry about like the DJing and stuff during the wedding.
That's interesting. Yeah. So learning not to stack the weaknesses at similar points during the wedding so that you can be there to assist. But if
you get a little brochure at the beginning of the wedding, like your own briefing of like, look out for this problem and this problem and this one. And you're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah. Maybe there has to be something uniquely Australian about this pitch as well. What could we do to throw some of throw some Australian flair into the mix?
Well, Australian is a land of horrible monsters. So
yes.
I think the best thing that we could possibly do is also make you a Crocodile Dundee-like character who has to occasionally wrestle an alligator or stomp out a snake or something. that gets loose at these weddings. So you're trying to do it like with stealth, right? With that hitman like calm, so that the family of the groom and the family of the bride don't actually find out that little baby Joe got bit by a snake, and you had to kill the snake and suck the poison out of his leg.
All right, that takes us to 10 minutes. So what are we going to call this game?
What a horrible game. This might sound lazy, but Bridal Bible is a pretty good.
Yeah, I think it still fits.
Or you could, what can we do? We could do Bridal Outback or something. Do we really play up the Australian angle on this now?
Yeah, let's see.
Outback Wedding.
The Outback Take Vows, like the Outback Steakhouse. That's a couple of loose rhymes away.
Nope, you are not. I'm finally making you live with your decisions. I'm not going to give you an alternative. Outback Take Vows. Shame on us. This is the last episode of the show. It is funny.
Well, just looking through this Instagram while we were pitching, I'm learning a lot about Australian weddings, and they seem a lot different than American weddings.
I'm also going to say this. I'm learning about these Australian weddings on Instagram that everyone is beautiful. The men are svelte and tan and perfectly cut suits, and all the women look great. It's unbelievable.
All the dresses are like incredible dresses. They're not just wedding dresses are always nice, but these are all a very particular brand.
Yeah, it looks honestly like that they're just combing through a model shoots
which I kind of expect they probably are, and just populating their Instagram with their favorite wedding photos, because occasionally you get a couple photos that are just very homemade that are probably the actual team members.
Yeah, right. You get the we accidentally let Shirley use the Instagram account this week.
I don't see any of the iconography in any of these staged sexy shots,
I hope because I'm getting my wedding photos back sometime this coming week. I hope to look 1/50th as sexy as some of these Australian people. Boy, oh boy. Maybe I need to move to Australia. That's the key.
There's a lot of white people too. I'm kind of just scrolling through, and it's a little, I don't know.
It's samey. Let's use that word.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's how they do it out there in the Outback.
Yeah. You get that many white people talking about a Bible, and it's I don't know. It's a little spooky.
How you doing, love? You want to take vows?
Anyways, that was a community pitch.
That was Q's impression hour. Thank you for.
That was a community pitch from one of our faithful listeners, the Bridal Bible Weddings, presumably a listener from the very beginning. We thank you for finally writing in. I know you've been really sitting on your hands trying to come up with something. And of course, we invite anyone to sign us up for anything.
Oh, God. I don't know if I want to put that out there.
That is free and goes to our email address and does not personally compromise either of us or put us on any FBI watch list.
That's okay. That's semi halfway there. I'm not even sure about signing us up for any old newsletter you like.
But we'll find a way to make merriment and joy out of something as banal as a wedding. No, weddings are beautiful, and you know this better than anyone.
I had a very non-traditional one. You're not going to offend me by saying that it was we went to City Hall. It was very simple. We rented a house. Everybody stayed together. We didn't do huge church, 300 people. We saved a bunch of money, and everyone had way more fun. And at least they all said they did. So I think
we had a Game of Life themed wedding. So, I wore blue, she wore pink, she hopped in my car. We immediately drove off and bought a house and ran ourselves into somehow stock market debt.
I had a trouble wedding where everybody was just constantly bumping into each other and knocking each other off the face of the earth. It was pretty exciting.
That's brutal. If you would like to email us, you can do so at playwrightcast@gmail.com. You can go to our website, playwrightcast.com/pitch, or tweet us at PlaywrightCast if you have video game ideas of your own you'd like to share and have read and discussed on the show.
Special thank you to Protodome for the use of our theme song, Hello World, off the album Blue Noise. And thanks to the Cane and Rinse Podcast Network. You got to go check out some of these other shows, like The Sausage Factory, Cane and Rinse, and of course, Sound of Play. And while I'm at plugs here, I was looking at the podcast app in the new version of Mac OS, and our last iTunes review is from a year ago. And thank you, by the way, to everybody that's left us a review. But I think it's time we refresh those. So if you love the show, if you want to let other people know about the show, there's always a great way to get us discovered and to show us your love. And we will, of course, read those reviews on the show. Go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, whatever it is, leave us a review, give us those stars. It actually makes a huge difference for how people find shows like the Cane and Rinse Network and Playwright, of course.
Excellent suggestion. Let's take ourselves out with another suggestion. Q, what is your miniature pitch to take us out today?
I want a video game. As you may or may not know, new to the iOS and Mac ecosystem is the automatic switching between dark mode and light mode. So I would like to have a video game where you have to go around turning light things dark and dark things light, and see what sort of effect that might have.
That's a good idea. I like that one. We might explore that further in the future. Anyways, thank you for listening. That's all for today. We'll catch you next week.
Bye. The individual whole